The rumor mill is a swirling. It's a twirling. And Max Verstappen is the center of attention once again in the F1 silly season. That's something that we're going to have to talk about today. Also, we got the preview for the Silverstone Grand Prix. And there's some news coming out of the Red Bull camp about some interesting news in FP1. So, let's dive into the Max Verstappen stuff first. What article from Roberto Chinchero? Chinchero? I do apologize if I butchered the name. I'm not good with names. I'm good with Smith, John, Johnson, Jackson, Brady. Go past 2 syllables, I'm in trouble. But that's beside the point. What is at stake in the Max Verstappen and Mercedes F1 situation? So, of course, this flares up once again. Max Verstappen to Mercedes. And normally, I would roll my eyes at it and not even acknowledge it. But because it seems like a weird fit, and also the guy that Max trusts outside of Limbasi is with Aston Martin. Aston Martin always has a seat open. And yeah, so that just seems like the more sensible fit, especially with Honda going to Aston Martin. But there's a little bit of credence to this. George Russell isn't signed for 2026. And we are right now in motion of Total Wolf's 10-year plan. The life after Lewis. Pretty much in this article, here's a few points here. Obviously, the upper administration heads in Germany for Mercedes, only upside to bring in Max Verstappen. Now, in this article, it points out some downsides here. So, if you're starting here, if Verstappen were to arrive, indications point to Russell being the one to make way. That's no small sacrifice, considering he's having his best F1 season, and 9 years of investment would essentially be undone, and Russell would likely request a full release from any Mercedes obligations if they let him go. In this scenario, Antonelli would also need some support, because in 2026 he'd be paired with a driver known as the ultimate teammate killer. The risk that Verstappen could wreck Wolff's junior program is real. Now, let's not pretend the real issue with that second Red Bull seat. And it's the simple fact that Red Bull is not very good with second drivers at all. I mean, for goodness sake, we have gone through Pierre Gasly, Daniel Ricciardo, Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, Checo Perez, Liam Lawson, Yuki Tsunoda, and with Lawson, Tsunoda, and Checo. That's not a driver issue. That's a car issue. Red Bull has pretty much all but admitted it. It's a car issue. Max Verstappen, he has struggled with this car. And by Max being an unbelievable once in a lifetime talent and truly a once in a lifetime talent, he is able to take a car that is at the level of a Haas, of a Sauber, and yes, they are that bad. They're taking a car he's taking a car of that level and busted out a couple wins and at least somewhat battling with McLaren and beating the Mercedes and Ferrari on a regular basis. Let's not pretend that this car is just next level unbelievable. Because when the car was actually good, Checo was right there with Max. He wasn't that far off the pace of Max, finishing second in the point standings. He was able to knock off a few races. One of them just outright beating Max. I think it was Baku was one of them. Let's not suddenly believe that it's a driver issue with that second Red Bull seat. This is 100% a car issue. And I have heard rumors. I don't think it's very. The rumors that I've heard, I think there was an attempt. Does it come to fruition? No, but they have been in talks with Sebastian Vettel to try to pull him out of retirement to see what's there. And the reality is, you're not going to get a better result than what you're getting now with Yuki and Lawson, Checo, because the car is that bad. Now, the question, so as far as Max potentially leaving at the end of 2020, at the end of this year, that we're going to get an answer in a matter of weeks. When they go into summer break, it all depends on the driver standings. So, we do know, in Drive to Survive, Christian Horner mentioned it, Max has an opt-out clause if he finishes below third in the championship standings. Now, I don't know if that number has moved or has been taken completely off the board. But we will assume it has at least stayed the same. So we're going to assume third in the point standings. George Russell is 9 points out of third place. And George Russell may inadvertently trigger his own downfall with Mercedes. Because George Russell is the only one that can catch Max at this current juncture. And Silverstone has always been a very rough track for Max. And with this car, he's not going to be able to have the grip to keep up with the McLarens. I think Mercedes is going to have a better day. Ferrari will likely have a better day than Max. It's just going to be a matter of what happens in Q3. And can Max stay within range of Oscar and Lando? Be able to use the DRS. But we'll get the whole Silverstone stuff in a minute. But got an article from F1 Planet written up by Matt Koch. Again, I apologize if I butchered the name, but the logic behind Max Verstappen to Mercedes. Max Verstappen has commanded headlines in the days since the Austrian Grand Prix amid renewed suggestion that he could be on his way out of Red Bull. It's a comparatively tough season for the four-time champion, a man who has grown accustomed to winning and giving credence to claims he is seeking his fortune elsewhere. Max Verstappen to Mercedes claims pragmatic response ahead of F1 2027. Against the backdrop of frustrations with this year's Red Bull RB21, the admission that there have been conversations with Toto Wolff that had led to the conclusion that Verstappen is poised to join the Brackley squad. Mercedes has George Russell and Kimi Antonelli locked in only until the end of this year. A product of the team's junior program, Russell is enjoying the best season of his career across the garage. Antonelli is demonstrating he's got strong potential to learn and develop in his rookie campaign. On the surface, there's no need to change the personnel, both drivers delivering, Russell having stepped into the team leader role with ease. However, that neither driver has their future secure opens up the door for speculation. Conversation between Wolff and Verstappen, his representatives, play further into that, but there has been precious little detail on the context of what those discussions were. Comments made by Wolff, Verstappen, and even Russell had shed some light through their words and have not managed to silence the whispers. Not that we can expect to receive a running dialogue. It's normal that conversations with the likes of Verstappen are ongoing. Russell said, but from my side, if I'm performing as I'm doing, what I've got to be concerned about, there are 2 seats in every Formula 1 team. But why would a driver with a long-term contract at a race-winning team be speaking with rivals if it isn't an imminent move? The simplest explanation is it's a Trojan horse of sorts, a play that forms a part of a border game that involves both Mercedes and Red Bull. By linking the Dutchman to the Mercedes, it weakens the negotiating power of both Russell and Antonelli, the former particularly capable of commanding a strong retainer given his position as a team leader, not to mention the recent form of success. Over at Red Bull, the threat that Max Verstappen might leave Milton Keynes could afford him leverage to seek to renegotiate terms of his contract, which runs through the end of 2028. That's a critical element as far as for now, he remains contracted to Red Bull. It's believed he does not currently meet the criteria to exercise the performance-related brake clause, though thought to be lower than 4th in the driver's standings after the Hungarian Grand Prix. So it's lower than 4th. If it's lower than 4th, this discussion is over. But again, we don't know for sure. I do know at one point it was 3rd, as Christian Horner said in the Drive to Survive series. I think it was the 2017-2018 season, somewhere in there. And if it was going to be moving anywhere, I would assume it'd be moving up. So we'll see on that. We'll definitely get some sort of light shed after the Hungarian Grand Prix. But if I were to guess, if he falls below George Russell, there's going to be rumbling. The rumblings are going to get louder. And we may get word by the time we get back racing after the break, that Max Verstappen is joining the Silver Arrows. Now, if I were to put a number on it, I would say 55% he stays with Red Bull. 40 he goes with Mercedes. And then I think it'd be 15% he goes to Aston Martin. I think Aston Martin is still they're still in the running. Lawrence wants to win. He wants to win really, really bad. And getting Max Verstappen is a good way to start winning right now. Now, going to the other end of the garage, we got a debut. Arvid Lindblad will drive Sonoda's RB21 and FP1 at the British Grand Prix. This is going to be very, very telling. If Lindblad is competitive in FP1, I would not want to be Yuki Tsunoda right now. Absolutely not. If Lindblad is competitive and he is within half a second to a second of Max, this whole conversation about Max, that flips again. Because now you have a legitimate discussion about, is it really the car or is it the driver? Because Lindblad, he is a talented driver. He is Red Bull's next phenom. But we'll have to wait and see on that. But Lindblad will be running in the Red Bull in FP1 at Silverstone. Now, what's Silverstone going to look like from a strategic standpoint? Well, if we go off last year's, oh dear. Of course. Of course it signed me out. I just cannot win, can I? So, if we go off of that, so while I'm trying to get this figured out, if Lindblad can stay competitive with Max, I don't know how you keep Tsunoda in after the Hungarian Grand Prix. You have to make the move over to Lindblad, Hajar. Obviously, Lindblad would probably be the best option, but nonetheless. So, with the tire strategy at Silverstone, 18 to 24 on the softs, and then finish the 52-lap event on the mediums. Start on the mediums, and then the second strategy would be 16 to 22 on the softs, and then finish it off on the hards. And then the other one would be starting on the mediums and going up to about lap 30, and then finishing on the hards, and then the very less likely 36 lap, going 30 to 36 laps on the mediums and finishing on the softs. Now, the weather at Silverstone, it's gonna be roughly 70 degrees Fahrenheit, give or take. So I don't think it will be as abrasive. I don't think the tires are gonna wear quite as much. 35% chance of rain. So it's not something too much to look at. But I will say your best strategy is more than likely going from the softs to the mediums, depending on how well you take care of your tires. I would go medium hard just so I have that option for the softs later in the race if something were to arise, and would give me a free pit stop. So I would start on the mediums, go from medium to hard. Um, the game itself. So take it with what you will. This is on F125. The basic strategy is a two stopper, going about going about 18 to 20 on the mediums twice, and then finishing on the soft. That was the base pit strategy for Silverstone on F125. So F125 says it's a two stopper. I think it can be a one stopper, especially for those like Max, Lewis, Oscar, and Lando, who are very, very good at managing the tires. George Russell also in that mix. But it's really going to depend on it's really going to depend on if the weather is correct. It's going to stay at around the 70 range, meaning the track temp will be roughly 100 to 110, maybe a little bit lower than that. Depends on if it's an overcast, which if there's a chance of rain, odds are it's going to be overcast. So the sun won't be beating directly down on the track. So the track temp probably 90 to 100, somewhere in that ballpark. And that will protect the tires a little bit more. Now, as far as this weekend goes, when we look at the driver perspective of this, the grand picture of it. Whoa, did not want to do that. Did not want to do that. Did not want to do that. Go back. There we go. All right. Good Lord. Just tech issues galore. But anyway, so Lando Norris is 15 points back. That is 1-2 finishes, with Lando being 1, Oscar being 2, away from being the leader in the Drivers' World Championship. Austria was absolutely massive for Lando. That was his season right there. Season was on the line. You had Oscar breathing down your neck. And Lando was able to deliver every single thing that I have ripped on Lando. A lot of other people have ripped on Lando. Norris proved everybody wrong. At least in Austria. He was not shaken. He did not blink this time. He's going to have to do it again in his home country, with, once again, everything on the line. Because he's got a hole to dig out of after Canada. He has a hole that needs to be dug out that he created. And because there is bias within the FIA, he was only given a 5-second penalty that was completely irrelevant. No points on his license, by the way, which is interesting. But Lando, he's got a hole to dig out of. He's got to beat a driver who, for all intents and purposes, is more talented than he is. Now, Lando's talented. He's a tremendous driver. But Oscar is a next level guy. And Lando has to beat him twice and get the fastest lap one of those times without Oscar getting the other. To tie Piastri, to tie his teammate. And if Austria's any indication, whoever qualifies the pole, Oscar and Lando, odds are that's who's going to win the race. And that also goes with whoever is first is going to get the preferential treatment as far as pit strategy. They're going to get the optimal stop. The other driver is either going to have to short pit or go long. And at a track like Silverstone, it's going to mean something. Because of those fast corners, there is going to be tire drag, which makes me believe that this is more than likely going to be a 2-stopper instead of a 1-stopper. But these tires are very, very rough through the high-speed turns. McLaren's the best at it right now. It's going to be a McLaren winning this race unless they take each other out. And I'm going to take the guy that's got the home turf advantage. Give me Lando Norris over Oscar Piastri to win this race. And now the question also becomes this battle with George Russell and Max Verstappen. Max is only 8 points ahead. 9. 9 points ahead. So, George can cut into that lead. It could be a whole lot more if Max ends up on the wrong side once again, or gets a tough break in qualifying where he's starting way in the back. Last weekend, Kimi went bowling, and Max was the pin. I doubt that happens again. Max, unusually gracious in these times. He was very gracious with Kimi. Said he came, we talked, and is water under the bridge. He's a rookie. It's a rookie mistake. It's going to happen. And he is correct. Rookie mistake. It's going to happen. It happened. You move on. So, and then we have the wild cards. Charles Leclerc and mainly Lewis Hamilton. Can Lewis right the ship? If there is a place to right the ship, it is a place where he has won 9 times. And I think Lewis is going to get on the podium here. I think he's the guy that finishes 3rd behind the McLarens. So, my top 10, Lando, Oscar, Lewis, George, Charles, Max. We'll go Kimi, Albon, Nico, Isaac. There's your top 10. So, that is my prediction for the top 10. I'm gonna go with the easy route and say we do not get a safety car. I don't think we do. And pseudo hopes of jinxing it, because usually those are interesting moments. But yeah, so trying to think if there was anything else that I was looking to mention. And the computer's beginning to go on the fritz on me again. So I'm not going to risk it any further. So, I'm Dylan Hildreth. This is the Dylan Hildreth Show. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. And if you're listening on podcast, make sure to leave a 5-star review, hit the follow button, and download the episode. Until next time, see ya.